Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech Asia Midday Market Watch. I'm Samantha Voon, and with me today is Arsalaan Ahmed, as known as Oz, as my co-presenter. So let's start with taking a look at the summary of the markets today. Oz, over to you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. Asian stocks mostly declined today due to uncertainty about the potential changes in US administration policies and the surprise interest rate cut in China that failed to boost market sentiment. Investors were reacting to US President Joe Biden's announcement to withdraw from the upcoming presidential race, endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris instead. Subject to a confirmation at the Democratic National Convention in 3 weeks' time, Harris is now expected to face Republican nominee Donald Trump. Whilst US stock futures initially rose following Biden's decision, they later gave up most of their gains during Asian trading hours. The ongoing sell-off in technology stocks was further pressured Asian markets, driven by profit-taking and a shift towards economically sensitive sectors. In China, the Shanghai Composite Index dropped 0.73%. The People's Bank of China unexpectedly cut its 1-year and 5-year loan prime rates, pushing them to record lows, but did little to bolster market confidence. Chinese markets have faced significant losses in recent weeks amid increasing speculation of a second term for Trump. A potential second term for Trump is seen as a negative scenario for China's economy. In Taiwan, leading chip maker TSMC saw a 3% drop despite reporting strong earnings for the second quarter. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was the only major market in Asia to rise, gaining 0.89% due to bargain buying in major technology stocks after the index had hit a near 3-month low earlier in the session. Sam, over to you for the rest of the updates.
Thank you, Oz. So in Australia, the uncertainty about China's future impacted other regional markets as well. So in Australia, we see the ASX fell 0.69%. And over in India, the future of the Nifty 50 index is also down. It's up 0.12%. In Singapore, the STI is down 0.04%. In Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia, the KLCI is down 1.05%. So over in Japan, the Nikkei 225 dropped 1.06%. In Korea, the Kospi is down 1.24%. Overall, Asian markets extended their losses from previous weeks, pressured by political uncertainties and also the sell-offs in tech stocks. So that's all I have for today's market updates. To give insight, we have our guest today, Vishnu Varathan, Head of Economics and Strategy at Mizuho Bank. Vishnu, welcome to the show. Hold on. There's some technical difficulties. Let us just... There you go. Hi there, Vishnu. Yes. Welcome to the show, Vishnu.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on, Sam. Thanks for having me on, Oz. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Vishnu, it's great to have you. Look, there's been a huge announcement that President Trump won't be standing for re-election. A few political observers anticipate it, but more broadly, this announcement really has come as a shock. So Vishnu, I'm sure our listeners are going to want to know, how will the Trump trades play out now?
No, that's a really good question. And I think for those who are inclined to just look at on the surface of this, they're going to brush this off and say, no real difference. We're just going to plow on and double down on Trump 2.0. Because they see this as a very late shift to the disadvantage of the Democrats, and so Trump still has got the advantage here. The more optimistic view amongst the Democrats and the supporters would say, actually, Kamala Harris presents the compelling alternative, and so it could be a much closer race. How we distill this down is what it means for the US dollar, what it means for yields and the yield curve, and what it means for equities. By and large, the sense is that the dollar will retain quite a bit of the strength it's enjoyed, although for now, the uncertainty is going to put it on its back foot. And for that reason, we do see rather mixed markets when it comes to FX. For the yields, the bet on a steeper yield curve, so longer term yields being higher because of longer term debt rising in the US, that too has taken a little bit of a breather. And the sense that maybe markets are quite clueless on how to go ahead with the politics and would much rather focus on US inflation data that's coming out. So they're probably sitting by the sidelines and waiting to see how to play this one out. Equities, by and large, should maintain some upside, although in this case, the gains in the US might be at the cost and at the expense of equity performance elsewhere, particularly for net exporter countries. So that's something to keep a lookout for as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a very interesting time over the next few weeks and lots for us to comment on and talk about. Closer to home, there's been another major announcement that the PBOC has announced that its 7-day reverse repo rate will be cut from 1.8% to 1.7%. What is the impact of this on the markets and also to the real economy?
I think you were right earlier when you pointed out that markets were not particularly impressed by the rate cut, and I think that doesn't just come down to the quantum of it, just a 10 basis point cut. More likely, it's come down to the underlying intent, and there are two things around this. One is markets are acutely aware that there's a huge tension between cutting rates to stimulate the economy, but then again, not allowing the renminbi to fall along with it, so wanting to hold up the renminbi strength. And that's going to cause tensions as to how far they can cut and how much they can cut. So that's the first, I think that's the first problem that markets have with this and the skepticism around it. The second issue is China's banking market is fairly unique insofar that it's not just the rates that matter, but also the credit quota and the moral suasion behind lending. And to that extent, I think that the lack of conviction that the lending will reach more prevalently across the economy, I think that aspect of it probably is holding back some of the optimism. And one thing I think that markets are particularly focused on is with banks already sitting on some losses, whether realized, declared, or otherwise, from the property sector, they might be a lot more cautious about taking on further risks. And to go back to the governor's point, and this comes from the PBOC, the problem seems to be with credit demand rather than credit supply. So you're not sure cutting the price of credit is going to stimulate the economy in the absence of much more broad-based confidence restoration. And that's probably what they're watching for as we approach the Politburo from the third plenum.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Vishnu. I just want to shift our focus over to India for a bit. They are presenting their budget 2024 tomorrow. So what are markets' expectation around the budget? What do you think?
I think some of the expectations has been set with the preliminary budget before the election, where markets were very impressed with the speed of fiscal consolidation suggested. So they're going to go from 5.8% of a deficit to 5.1 by next March, and in 2026 March go to 4.5. That's a very impressive pace of consolidation, and I think to some extent the government will be pressured to hold on to those lofty targets because they don't want to be called out for now coalition reliant government losing its grip on fiscal consolidation. So they need to demonstrate that they haven't lost the ability to bring down deficits and ultimately debt. What helps them this time around is that they have got a windfall dividend payment from the RBI, which has given them a buffer, a huge buffer of 0.4 percentage points of GDP. So they can probably pull it off this time. But what markets will watch is how it evolves as they go forward into 2025, 2026 to see whether that pace of fiscal consolidation can be kept up. And that's going to impact on how much rupee assets and the rupee can continue to rally, particularly if global headwinds gather.
Okay, thank you so much, Vishnu, for today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we've been speaking to Vishnu Varathan, Head of Economics and Strategy at Mizuho Bank. This has been BizTech Asian Midday Market Watch. Be sure to keep informed on the latest markets update weekdays at 1 p.m. I'm Samantha Voon, and with me here is Arsalaan Ahmed, as known as Ars. And this video and podcast will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, and our social media platforms. It will also be on our syndication partners' TV stations, radio stations, and website. Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.